Michigan, of course, has been blowing away these win totals the last 3 years and going 11-1, 12-0, 12-0, and a national championship the last season. They've got a difficult start. One of the better teams in the group of five in recent years has been Fresno State, then Texas. So they're going to be 1-0, you would think, taking on the Longhorns and a bit of an underdog, probably at home against Texas, but it is a home game in Michigan. It will bring the defense. They've got Arkansas State before they dive into Big Ten play against USC. That's at the Big House, and that really is going to, I think, be the barometer of how good this Michigan team is in Big Ten play, as the over-under stands at 9.5 and pays out 100 even for the over and minus 122 for the under. Then you've got Minnesota. You've got a rematch of the national championship game against Washington, although that's going to be a completely different Washington team. The bye week, and then a pretty easy stretch against Illinois and Michigan State before Oregon comes to the Big House at Indiana, and then off for Northwestern and Ohio State. So if you put it all together, it's a pretty difficult schedule, certainly much tougher than it was in 2023, but the big games are spread out. And Michigan, again, is sitting at 9.5, according to FanDuel.
There's a certain Big Ten team this year that lost their offensive line, their quarterback, their best running back, and they have a new head coach. Not to mention they have a tougher non-conference schedule, and they've got this program pegged at 9.5 wins.
And you're surprised by that? You think that's not achievable?
I think they're going 8-4, Mark. I think this is the beginning of the Rich Rod years all over again. I think their coach is, be there for probably 2-3 years. He's on borrowed time probably already. But yeah, 9.5, not happening. Not happening. I hate to be the one to break the news to your largest fan base, but actually, I'm not sad about it at all. But yeah, they're going 8-4 this year. You can already tell the games are going to lose to. I mean, come on, this is easy money. Plus, I get the hook anyway. So even if they somehow manage 9-3, I'm still winning here, Mark.
Easy money. Isn't that? Those are famous last words.
Easy money here,
Easy
Mark.
money.
Yes.
All right, let's look at this schedule. I don't see a guaranteed loss in the bunch myself.
They're losing to Texas. Mark.
Okay.
That's just it. Chalk that up.
I'm not so sure about that.
That's a loss. That's a loss. Quinn Ewers is going to gut them like a fish.
Okay. I've got a lot of less confidence that happening than you do, because Michigan is going to bring back a defense.
They'll have a good defense, but their offense is going to be hot garbage. I'm telling you that much right now, Mark. I mean, they lose their quarterback, they lose their offensive line, they lose their best running back, and they lose their best wide receiver. Those are all facts.
Yeah, they are facts. You could say the same thing about a lot of teams across the country that maintain a high level of play from year to year that suffer those kind of losses.
By the way, Texas also picked up that Alabama wide receiver. Could be big this year.
Here's how I see it. First of all, there is no one that they are losing to for sure. There are no certain losses on the schedule. Zero.
All right, let me ask you this. What would be the early line on Texas in that game? I bet Texas goes into that game as a favorite.
We got a call from DeReal MVP. He was reading off the lines as they stand right now. Of course, that's going to change throughout the summer and after the first game of the season. But right now, Texas is a 2.5-point favorite.
Okay. I was going to say 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But okay.
That's less than convincing.
Well, Texas is now, for what it's worth, Texas is probably going to open up what? Top 5 or 6 preseason, Mark?
Yeah. None of what you're telling me matters at all. Doesn't matter who's ranked where. Texas could be number 2 and Michigan could be number 17 and Michigan could beat them. We see it all the time.
Okay. Whole new offense. I'm just saying, breaking it in against the Texas team that I think is going to go in there and be able to move the ball.
And I'm just saying that there's not one game on this schedule that I can say Michigan is losing that game.
Oh, I know there's a game they're going to be losing, Mark.
I don't see any of them. and I'm
Yeah,
not going to see them on the next page either.
it's called late November, Mark. It's called late November, Mark.
Okay.
Check it out. Mark it down right
Now,
now.
the games they could lose in order: Ohio State. That's the most likely loss.
Chalk it up, Mark. That one's
I'm not
over.
chalking anything up.
They might as well not even make the trip to Columbus. Let's just be real here.
Well, maybe Ohio State doesn't want them to make the trip to Columbus the way things
Give
are
me
going.
give me a break. Do you want to compare rosters right now? It's not even close. It's not even close.
David, you've watched too much football for way too long to be assuming anything.
Ohio State's going to have the best secondary in the country, the best backfield in the country coming into this year. They're going to have maybe the best defense in the country. They got their entire defense coming back from a top 5 defense last year, Mark.
And you wanted to know the odds for the Texas game. The Ohio State game is a touchdown.
Okay.
And that's the same point spread as 2021 and 2022.
Fair enough. Now, maybe once, they come into that game and they're 5-6 playing for pride, that will motivate them to play a good game. And they'll have some motivation. Maybe this new coach will get them amped up to play. But their comeuppings are coming once they get to Columbus in late November. Mark, let's keep it real here.
Their toughest games are at Ohio State, and then I would basically put Oregon and Texas in the same category because they get Texas early, meaning they're not going to have time to put that offense together. So they might be a more well-oiled machine when they play Oregon later in the season. And then it's USC or it's at Washington.
Yeah, they lose. Okay, they lose to Oregon. They're definitely getting 4 losses. I mean, chalk it up right there. Like I said, there's your 8-4 right there. Either way, the 9.5 is in the bag because they go 9-3, which they're definitely going 9-3. I still get paid here.
Yeah, I am not confident in picking this team one way or the other. I would tend to lean toward the under on the 9.5, thinking they're going to go 9-3, but I think that there will be better plays out there.
They brought back all the 5th and 6th round draft picks that are going to the NFL this year, Mark. So they put it all into this bag this season so that they could, cheat to get their title, which they obviously did. And, now that it's all gone, eventually the sanctions and the scholarship reduction and the vacated wins will soon follow here. Now it's time to go back to the Rich Rod years, go back to 8-4, which they probably will, and, be who they are used to being,
Well, you are right. That's who they've been, aside from these two peaks of 1997 and the last 3 years. It's
That's
been
right.
an 8-4, 9-3 program for the better part of 30 years.
Yeah. I know your largest fan base thinks they've been going undefeated for like 20 years in a row or something, I'm telling you what, though, this Washington 7.5 also surprises me, Mark. I think that's low. I just wanted
And
to
I'm sorry,
get
Dave,
your
before you
opinion.
get to that, you brought to mind something that
Yeah.
I pointed out when I posted these over-unders with the Big Ten video I posted, I think, yesterday. So even Michigan fans would have to admit, unless they just are delusional, that this is an
Delusional.
impressive
Yeah.
number.
Well,
Since 2011, when you're looking at win totals, this is crazy. Nobody's keeping up with this in college football outside of Nick Saban. That Ohio State, since 2011, has, in the regular season, posted 2 undefeated seasons, 2 10-2 seasons, and all the other seasons are 11-1.
well, I mean, statistically, you looked it up, Mark. How many times would Ohio State have missed a 12-team playoff in like the last 20 years or so?
Not since 2004, except for the Fickle year.
Right. Twice in 20 years, that would be the only times they would have missed a 12-team playoff. So, There you go.
Yeah, it is the most consistently dominant football program in the country. And nobody can really, if anybody wants to argue that, please, please call me. Please, I am begging and pleading for you to call me.
I'm a big returning production guy, and Michigan is going to be in the 120s of that. Texas top 25. Also, coaching wise, I think Steve Sarkisian at this point is a more seasoned and better coach than Sharon Moore. Quinn Ewers will be the far better quarterback in that game. I don't think that's a discussion. I do agree with you. Their defense is going to be very good, but do I think Alex Orji is going to score 3 touchdowns versus us? Because that's what I think at minimum you're going to have to score. I don't. So I don't think they're winning that game. I would bet on the under personally. I think they're 9-3, which I don't know why that's such a hateful thing to say. You're losing a lot off of probably, in my opinion, the third or fourth best team of the last 15 years. So I don't know why that's hateful to Michigan fans, but whatever.
Rival Michigan State, of course, had to go through 2023 with an interim coach after week 3 in Harlan Barnett. They've had a couple rough seasons after the Mel Tucker breakout in 2021 at 11-2. Michigan State, another one from the Big Ten, sitting on that 5.5 win total after winning 4 last year. The payouts are -122 and +100, and of course a new head coach in Jonathan Smith, one of the best hires of the offseason, in my opinion, right there with Mike Elko of Texas A&M. Florida Atlantic's got to be a win, although they took Illinois to a difficult 6-point game in Champaign last year, and Tom Herman's back at coach. At Maryland for Michigan State, that has been a difficult game in recent years. Prairie View's got to be a win, of course. At Boston College against Bill O'Brien's team should be an interesting affair and a close point spread, you would think. Then look at that brutal Big Ten stretch. Ohio State at Oregon. And then after the bye week, Iowa, Michigan. Buckeyes, Ducks, Hawkeyes, Wolverines. Ouch. Should be 4 consecutive losses for Michigan State there. They've got Indiana. They've got at Illinois, Purdue, and Rutgers. Okay, so the closing run, if they can somehow survive and keep the roster intact, keep people healthy, they could pick up some wins. I think a good goal would be 2-2 to close it out. If Michigan State can go 2-1 non-conference, that of course means that they've got to go 4-5 in the Big Ten for the over. So they pretty much have to defeat Boston College, you would think, to surpass 5.5 wins. They've got to sweep the non-conference at 3-0, and then their 3 wins in conference look like they're coming down the stretch against Indiana, Illinois, Purdue, and Rutgers unless they can sneak one away from Iowa at home. That's the formula for Jonathan Smith and Michigan State to get to 6 wins in postseason play. That's what they care about. But if you're playing Sparty, it's 5.5 for the win total this year.